Part 105. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuen Suya. Chapter 1041. Chapter 1041. He still has to save his life. Hami Melon, you loser, what are you doing? Come over quickly and help me get rid of these disgusting humans. Qian Yanji roared, staring at the cantaloupe with red eyes. Hami Melon smiled, scratched the back of his head, and then walked towards Qian Yanji step by step. It's not that he doesn't want to save him, he's just afraid that he will die soon after seeing his gang leader in such a miserable state. After Hami Gu drove away the onlookers, he followed the instructions Yu Lingfeng had given him before and searched for the silver needle on Qian Yanji's body. Qian Yanji saw Hami Gu lift up his clothes and touch here and there, his face darkened and he yelled angrily, "What are you doing?" Hamigawa raised his head and said innocently, "Master Gang Leader, if I don't find that needle for you, you won't be able to move for the rest of your life." Qian Yanji closed his eyes, gritted his teeth and said angrily, "Then, please hurry up. Scratch him back and forth, will he feel itchy? If he laughs in front of his subordinates, what will happen to his reputation as the leader of the Kinsha gang?" "Yes." Hami Melon's eyes lit up, he discovered the troublesome silver needle, and then took it out. Qian Yanji suddenly regained his vitality and was able to move. After being stationary for so long, all the muscles in his body were already sore. Qian Yanji said with a cold face, "Damn you Lingfeng, next time I see you, I will peel off your skin and cramp you, and cut you into pieces." Hami Melon trembled after hearing this. "It's true, but you, the gang leader, obviously can't beat me. Otherwise, you wouldn't be reduced to this. Of course, all this is just Cantaloupe's inner drama, and he doesn't dare to say it directly. This world is so wonderful, and he still wants to live a good life for a few more decades. Gang leader, where are we going now?" "Go back." Qian Yanji said with a cold face. "Go back now?" Hamigawa asked in a weak voice, and regretted it after asking. Qian Yanji stared at him, his pupils were so cold that they seemed to have come from hell. Hami Melon swallowed hard, and cold sweat broke out on his face. "Okay, go back." Hami Melon lowered his head and silently slapped himself. He really can't hold back his mouth. He wants you to talk more and wants you to talk more. Hamigawa is the only person in Kinsha who has met Qian Yanji, and the only one who knows that Qian Yanji is actually just a child. Hami Melon was shocked when the old gang leader asked him to succeed him. Is this a joke? But later, Qian Yanji showed his strength to Hamigawa. He was not just a child, his ability should not be underestimated. However, just after taking a few steps, Qian Yanji suddenly stopped again. "You go back first, I have something else to do." Hamigawa was startled and looked at Qian Yanji. "Gang leader, you are not going back." "I'm not going back, I'm going to kill that Yu Lingfeng tonight." Qian Yanji gritted his teeth and said, "Well, if the gang leader needs my help, just send me a signal." "No need, now it's a personal feud between Yu Lingfeng and me." "That gang leader, come on." Hamigawa felt that Qian Yanji was no match for Yu Lingfeng. Of course, it was impossible for him to tell him, he still had to save his life. Just as Hamigawa was about to leave, he was suddenly stopped by Qian Yanji. "Stop. Gang leader, is there anything else you can do?" Hami Melon turned around and asked. "Don't tell anyone what happened today." Qian Yanji said word for word. End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuen Suya. Chapter 1042. Chapter 1042. Can I go find 11 Jew? "Don't worry, master, I will definitely rot in my stomach, and no one will tell me." Hami Melon raised 4 fingers and swore. Qian Yanji had a cold face and was non-committal. He just gave a low reply from his nasal cavity, "Yes." After saying that, Qian Yanjiu turned around and prepared to leave. Hamaguwa turned around inadvertently and saw the forgotten pink lace umbrella, so he called Qian Yanjiu again, "Gang leader, you didn't take the umbrella." Qian Yanjiu turned around inexplicably. When he saw the umbrella, he immediately became furious. He picked up a stone on the side and threw it at the cantaloupe. "Are you looking for death? Cantaloupe, that umbrella does not belong to me." Hamaguwa quickly hid with his quick eyes and hands, and then stuck out his tongue angrily at Qian Yanjiu's leaving back. How could he have known that he thought it was Qian Yanjiu's umbrella? After all, who could figure out the taste of their gang leader? In the evening, Xia Ying was at the company. The variety show You Are the Singer has come to a perfect conclusion. After Liang Ye signed Kuiyaki, he really cultivated him very seriously. During this time, he has been staying in the music room to prepare for his new album. However, at this time, one person was unhappy. Qian Yins ran to Xia Ying's office with a stinky face and said aggrievedly, "After our master Xiao got a new apprentice, he forgot about me as his eldest disciple. I have fallen out of favor now, and so have you." "Don't care." Xia Ying raised her head and looked at Qian Yins. Qian Yins was holding a flower in his hand, pulling the petals aggrievedly and muttering in a low voice, "He doesn't like me anymore, but he still likes me." Xia Ying sighed helplessly, really unwilling to reveal that Liang Ye had never considered him as his apprentice. It's just that Liang Ye is kind-hearted and doesn't like to refuse, so he never refuses Qian Yin's request. Who knows that he was misunderstood by Qian Yins? Now that Liang Ye finally signed a contract with his favorite apprentice, he must have taught and cultivated him carefully. Naturally, he only has time to pay attention to Qian Yins. "You can go over and listen," Xia Ying said, then walked up to Qian Yins and took away the flowers in his hand. "Don't waste the flowers, think carefully about how to please your master Ono." With tears in his eyes, Qian Yins looked up at Xia Ying and said, "Master Ono didn't let me go over to observe, saying it would affect them." Xia Ying raised her head and said, "Then, can you find something else meaningful to do?" "Live broadcast." Qian Yin's eyes lit up, and Xia Ying immediately interrupted sharply, "No way. This Qian Yins is simply a live streaming madman." Xia Ying felt that if he had not become a singer, he would probably have embarked on the road of anchoring. Even when he became a singer, he still tried every means to find opportunities to broadcast live. It was simply a deep love. Qian Yins curled his lips, looked at Xia Ying quietly, and asked tentatively, "Then, can I go find 11 Ju?" Xia Ying frowned, "You are still at work now. Then can I go find 11 Ju after work?" Qian Yins said, staring at Xia Ying with sparkling eyes and pleading. Qian Yins has not seen 11 Ju for several days since he went to the castle. "I said, you laid the groundwork for so long just to say this, right?" Xia Ying rolled her eyes at him in disgust. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yun Suya. Chapter 1043. Chapter 1043. There won't be snakes here, right? Qian Yin scratched his head in embarrassment, smiled and said, "No way, I just thought of it by the way." Xia Ying twitched the corner of her mouth, "I am the fool to believe you. By the way, where did my baby Zihu go? Why doesn't he let me go find him every time?" "Of course." Xia Ying was sorting out the documents at hand while chatting with Qian Yins. The location of Yu Lingfeng's castle is not easy to find, and if Qian Yins knew about it, he would not have to go there and harass 11 Ju every day. 11 Ju didn't care and even enjoyed it. But the key is that it is Yu Lingfeng's place. Yu Lingfeng is such a quiet person, so he definitely doesn't want to be disturbed. If Yu Lingfeng gets annoyed, he will tear that Qian Yins to pieces. Then take me to find him. Qianyins took hold of Xia Ying's arm and begged. Xia Ying raised her head to meet Qianyin's gaze, paused, and then said, "It's okay, but I have a request." Qianyins looked at Xia Ying's narrow eyes and was stunned. He had a bad idea in his mind. What's the request? Let me explain first that the head can be cut off or the blood can bleed, but the hands cannot be collected. Xia Ying rolled her eyes gorgeously. I thought you had finished collecting the figurines. Qianyin said proudly, can't our Zihu baby send it to you? Xia Ying raised her eyebrows. Why did she risk her life to ask this question? On the road, Xia Ying and Qianyins were sitting in the car. After getting out of the car, Xia Ying took out a black shoe and covered Qianyin's eyes. Qianyins was puzzled. What is this doing? Do you want any surprises? No, I'm afraid you'll remember the way and come here every day. Qianyins. Then what if I fall? Qianyins felt that the roads around him were getting harder and harder to walk when he just got off the car. Qianyins already felt that the surroundings were very remote. The further he walked, the more remote it seemed. Then walk slower. Xia Ying said. Qianyins curled his lips and said dissatisfied, how long will it take to walk? Xia Ying did not answer, but after walking for about 10 minutes, Xia Ying took off the black cloth from Qianyin's eyes. Qianyins took a moment to react and rubbed his eyes. Are you here? Qianyins looked at the surrounding environment. They seemed to be in the forest. Qianyins approached Xia Ying silently. There won't be any snakes here, right? There are still tigers. Xia Ying mocked. Qianyins was stunned for a moment before realizing that Xia Ying was teasing him. Let's go, there's still some distance to go. Xia Ying took Qianyins and walked forward again. Not long after leaving, Qianyins discovered a classic and elegant black castle not far away, which looked like a place where vampires lived in the Middle Ages. Qianyin's eyes widened and he said in surprise, F***ck, don't tell me that the castle in front is for you Lingfeng. Xia Ying nodded. Why do they live here? How old is this castle? What do you Lingfeng and his family do? Like a curious baby, Qianyins asked several questions in succession. Shut up. Xia Ying couldn't bear the noise from Qianyins and said angrily. Arriving in front of the castle, Xia Ying knocked on the door. Not long after, 11 Ju ran over and opened the door. 11 Ju opened the door and was stunned when he saw Qianyins behind Xia Ying. Why are you here? End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuan Suya. Chapter 1044. Chapter 1044. What grudge do you two have? 11 Ju did not wait for Qianyin's answer. What he received in return was a warm and big hug. Qianyin saw 11 Ju, whom he had not seen for a long time. After he pounced on him, his whole body was hung up on 11 Ju's body. 11 Ju's face turned dark. He was not used to openly showing affection. Xia Ying adhered to the concept of see no evil and silently lowered her head, not looking at the greasy scene between the two of them. After Qianyins got off Zihu, he said to Zihu with a proud face, dang dang dang, you didn't expect that I would suddenly appear, didn't you? 11 Ju's face was already red. He looked at Xia Ying and Qianyins sheepishly, and said in a low voice, I didn't expect it. This guy is thinking about you so much that he begged me to bring him here. But don't worry, I blindfolded him when he came so he can't remember the way. Xia Ying explained. Qianyins laughed awkwardly and said angrily, that's not because you haven't come to see me for a long time. It's just that I've been quite busy these days. 11 Ju said, I plan to find you tomorrow. Hey, where is Yu Lingfeng? Xia Ying leaned inside. Usually when she came, Yu Lingfeng would open the door for her. Not to mention that it was 11 Ju who opened the door today. Why didn't Yu Lingfeng show up yet? Oh, the master is inside, 11 Ju said. Doing what? Teaching Qianyanjiu a lesson. What? Xia Ying and Qianyins were surprised in unison, and then looked at each other for a while. Shouldn't Qianyanjiu go back? Why is Qianyanjiu here? Xia Ying and Qianyins said in unison again. 11 Ju has been stunned by the two of them. At this time, Xia Ying and Qianyins passed by 11 Ju, and Xia Ying called Yu Lingfeng's name. Yu Lingfeng. Qianyins called Qianyanjiu's name, Qianyanjiu. Xia Ying looked back at Qianyins in confusion. Do you know Qianyanjiu? Qianyins shook his head helplessly. This matter is a long story. The master is over here. 11 Ju rushed over and said to Xia Ying and Qianyins. Then he led Xia Ying and Qianyins to a place. Xia Ying felt familiar when she saw Qianyanjiu for the first time. Did Qianyins really know Qianyanjiu? Wait, Qianyins and Qianyanjiu, these two people, don't have a brotherhood, right? While Xia Ying was still thinking about something, Qianyins was already walking forward. Xia Ying looked up and saw that the little boy was being tied to his master by Yu Lingfeng, with a towel stuffed in his mouth, and a pair of beautiful eyebrows, staring at Yu Lingfeng full of resentment. Yu Lingfeng, on the other hand, was sitting at the side, holding a copy of the Tao Te Ching in his hand, shaking his head and edifying the thoughts of the angry young man in front of him. However, it was obvious that the young man did not want to hear it. Every nerve on his face was protesting and refusing. Qianyanjiu heard the movement and looked forward. When his eyes fell on Qianyins, he was stunned. Immediately, the handsome features of the young man were filled with hatred, and his cold eyes stared at Qianyins, as if he wanted to eat him alive. 11 Ju silently looked at Qianyins beside him and asked in a low voice, "What grudge do you two have?" End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuan Suya. Chapter 1045. Chapter 1045. Could it be that he is a long-lost brother? Qianyins sighed. Well, it's a long story. When everyone came closer, Qianyanjiu was still staring at Qianyins, whining and making some evil howling sound. Although he couldn't hear clearly, it was obvious from his ferocious expression that every word was filled with anger and hatred. Yu Lingfeng also noticed something, and looked at Qianyins, who appeared inexplicably, and then looked at Qianyanjiu. Somehow, Xia Ying's words appeared in his mind. Yu Lingfeng, do you think Qianyanjiu looks a bit like Qianyins? When Xia Ying said this at first, Yu Lingfeng didn't think so, but now that the two parties are present, it seems that they are indeed very similar. Could it be that they are long-lost brothers? Yu Lingfeng thought of this, slightly raised his lips, and showed a meaningful smile. Qianyanjiu, what did he do? Why do you tie him up? Qianyins raised his eyebrows slightly and asked. Qianyanjiu was still protesting vaguely, staring at Qianyins with a pair of bloodthirsty eyes, and the veins on his neck were bulging, which was very scary. Children are just ignorant. Yu Lingfeng said slowly, and then raised the obscure Tao Te Ching in his hand. I am instilling some basic concepts in him. Qianyins touched his forehead, feeling a little helpless. No wonder he is like this. Since he was a child, this kid has never been the kind of material for reading. He is the kind who gets dizzy when he reads a book. Qianyins, Qianyanjiu, are you your brother? Xia Ying asked the doubts in her heart. In fact, she had wanted to ask for a long time. Although she had never asked, looking at the current situation, it was almost the same. Qianyin sighed first, and then replied with a grimace, yes, he is my brother, but we haven't seen each other for many years. Xia Ying frowned, recalling what Qianyins told her about his life experience before, saying that he was a young master from a wealthy family, but his family was in ruins, and he was burdened with a lot of debt. He had no choice but to go to the entertainment industry, and he performed as an entertainer to pay off the money, but, with his life experience, where did a killer brother come from? Moreover, this killer is not just an ordinary person. He is the current gang leader of Kincha and the top boss in the killer rankings. How can these two people who are so incompatible with each other have such a close connection? Well, you also know that the ancient organization Kincha originated in Europe. In fact, it is Arkingia. The name Kincha also comes from this. Later, the reason why Kincha declined was because of the people under his command. Due to the rebellion after seizing power, Kincha gradually divided into two, one was the pure air Kincha, and the other was the former rebel. Although the two were theoretically incompatible, in the end, the one who rebelled against the party. The descendants of the family woke up early and converted to Archian family. Gradually, there were no disputes, and the two different teams could live in harmony. Originally, the family planned for me to inherit Kincha, but I couldn't help but watch. I know nothing about astrology, and fighting and killing have nothing to do with me, so I ran away and came to China. However, I later found out that Jian Yanjiu, my younger brother, he was actually forced to inherit Kincha. While Jian Yins was telling this matter, Jian Yanjiu kept staring at him with cold eyes, with endless resentment hidden in his eyes. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuan Suya. Chapter 1046. Chapter 1046 I want you to die. So you lied to me before? Xia Ying asked with a frown. Qian Yin smiled and said, actually, it's not a lie, it's just that I have gone through artistic processing. But even if you escape to China, wouldn't it still be easy for people from Kincha to find you? Yu Lingfeng raised his eyes, looked at Qian Yin's, and said slowly. That's true, but later I was expelled from Kincha and Kinjia. That's why I dared to start my new life in China unscrupulously. Qian Yins glanced at Jian Yanjiu and then said, I only recently found out that Jian Yanjiu became Kincha's gang leader, because I remember that the previous gang leader was quite strong. I didn't expect it to happen so soon. Just abdicated? Yu Lingfeng saw that Jian Yanjiu beside him seemed to be suffering from suffocation, so he took off the towel from his mouth and let him speak. Jian Yanjiu sneered first, and then stared straight at Jian Yins with his eagle eyes. If the former gang leader was really strong, he wouldn't have let you be the gang leader at that time. You would be a traitor and a coward. How can there be someone like you in Kinjia? You are so blind. Jian Yins took a deep breath and had no time to continue what had passed with Jian Yanjiu. He just sighed and said word by word, I just want to do what I like, my own life, why can't you make the decision yourself? These are all excuses. As a member of Kinjia, you only care about yourself. When the gang leader died, he was still asking where you were, but you, a coward, actually ran away. You selfish person, people should go to as soon as possible. Next, Jian Yanjiu cursed Jian Yins with a series of curse words that were unbearable to hear, but Jian Yins kept holding back and did not utter a single word. He probably feels indebted, but if he were asked to choose again, he would still choose this path. His life has been gloomy since childhood. He has seen too much fighting and killing, but what he pursues in his heart is just a corner of peace. Even so, people will still say it is selfish. He is indeed selfish, but he does not have the tolerance to tolerate it. He does not like the life of licking blood on the tip of a knife. He just wants to live like a normal person, but this is just a luxury hope. I know I'm sorry for the gang leader, I'm sorry for the people of Kinjia, and I'm even more sorry for you. Shut up, you are not worthy to be compared with me. Jian Yanjiu's tone and demeanor when he spoke were very similar to the previous gang leader. He just intentionally imitated him because he admired him. I also want to lead the Kincha organization like him. But the previous gang leader's favorite person was Jian Yins, and he was also the person he was most optimistic about. But what did Jian Yins do? He ran away the day before the gang leader died and came to China to entertain the public as he was the clown. What do you want from me? That will make you feel better. Qianyins lowered his head, his voice was hoarse, and he confessed. I want you to die. Qian Suchin gritted his teeth and spoke every word without hesitation, not like he was joking, but like he was saying the words he longed for most in his heart. That sentence he had hidden in his heart for a long time and wanted to say it for a long time. Okay, I'll make it happen for you. Qianyins moved his throat and acquiesced. End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuan Suya. Chapter 1047. Chapter 1047. Why do you want to help that woman Xiao Ran? Qianyins raised the corners of his mouth slightly, revealing a bitter and cold smile. Then, he suddenly ran backwards, preparing to hit the thick pillar behind him. At that moment, Qian Yanjiu's pupils dilated and it was difficult to see clearly whether he was in shock or some other emotion. The moment Qianyins touched the pillar, Zihu rushed over and blocked Qianyins' path. Qianyins directly hit 11ju's generous chest. 11ju was hit hard by the blow and coughed violently. His body seemed to fall apart and slumped down. Qianyins opened his eyes wide and supported 11ju, who almost fell to the ground. What are you doing? Zihu stood firm and coughed several times before he answered with difficulty, it's not that simple if you want to die. Qianyin's eye circles suddenly turned red. I'm sorry, 11ju. At this time, Qian Yanjiu was stunned for a long time before he realized what was going on with the pair in front of him. Qian Yanjiu snorted disdainfully, it's immoral. At this time, Yu Lingfeng glanced at him coldly, it seems that you have not fully absorbed the Tao Te Ching. Qian Yanjiu was stunned for a moment, and then he retched in his stomach. His whole face said disgust, you might as well just kill me. What exactly does this strange guy want to do? He came to assassinate him, and when he was caught, he endured it, and the worst he could do was die. But this man, instead of killing him, even recited some sutra to torture him. At this moment, he actually understood the pity of Sun Wukong. There is always a man chanting sutras around you to torture you. This feeling is really worse than death. I won't kill you. Yu Lingfeng said calmly. Qian Yanjiu stared at him coldly, then what do you want to do? Let your brother go, and I will let you go. Yu Lingfeng reasoned with him and talked about the conditions in a good voice, but Qian Yanjiu didn't accept him at all. Instead, he spat and said sternly, I won't let him go, and neither will you. Don't let me go. Kill me or chop me into pieces, it's up to you. Yu Lingfeng looked at him funny, child, do you have something wrong with your brain? If I kill you, why don't you let Qianyins go? What about your Qinsha? You have all these problems. Have you considered it? Or, you are actually here to seek death. In fact, in your heart, you don't want to be Qinsha's gang leader. Are you trying to kill me by coming to me again and again? How come you were caught by me in a matter of seconds? If that's the case, what position do you have to accuse your brother? Get caught in just a few steps? Are you here to kill someone on purpose? Qian Yanjiu's face turned black when he heard Yu Lingfeng's words. He underestimated the enemy. He didn't expect that Yu Lingfeng was so powerful. He was no match for him. Strong words to make sense. Qian Yanjiu clearly knew that Yu Lingfeng was distorting the facts, but he had no way to refute it. This guy bullied him because he didn't read much, so he couldn't defeat him. Child, you go back and ask Qinsha people to be more honest. Also, I never understand, why do you want to help that woman Xiao Ran? Yu Lingfeng put down the Tao Te Ching and continued, Qinsha people, the reason why those 3 capable subordinates were lost is that this woman can't escape her involvement. Hearing Xiao Ran's name, Qian Yanjiu's temples moved. He did not answer directly, but said with a cold face, it has nothing to do with you. End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuen Suya. Chapter 1048. Chapter 1048. It's not a good idea to target me. Even after losing 3 of your capable subordinates, you still refuse to reveal the relationship between you. It was obvious that you were the ones who came to trouble me in the beginning. I was just acting in self-defense. In the end, or your subordinates are too weak, aren't they? Yu Lingfeng seemed to intend to irritate Jian Yanjiu. The other party was already gnashing his teeth after hearing this. Yu Lingfeng still spoke unhurriedly, but only raised his head from time to look at the changes in Jian Yanjiu's expression. Jian Yanjiu seemed to have been stabbed in a painful spot, with a ferocious expression on his face. He wanted to refute everything he wanted to say, but when he really wanted to say it out, all of it was lost in his mouth. What Yu Lingfeng said did not make sense, but no matter what, to him, the person who killed those 3 people was Yu Lingfeng. To avenge them, the person he was looking for would only be Yu Lingfeng. That's all. Yu Lingfeng picked up the Tao Te Ching again, walked to Jian Yanjiu, and said word by word, "This time, do you want Hami Melon to pick you up again, or do you want to go by yourself?" Jian Yanjiu tried hard to control his temper and answered word for word, "I will go on my own." Good. Yu Lingfeng untied Jian Yanjiu, and then handed him the Tao Te Ching. "This is a good thing, go back and read more if you have nothing to do." Jian Yanjiu raised his head and glared at Yu Lingfeng, gritted his teeth, "No need." But Yu Lingfeng forced it onto his body, "You have to take it if you don't want it. Take it back and take a good look. Damn it, don't think I don't know you're mocking me." How could Jian Yanjiu have ever been humiliated like this when he was so old? All of this was brought to him by Yu Lingfeng. He will never forget it. This arrogant man will one day defeat him. It seems you are not that stupid yet. Yu Lingfeng smiled lightly. One last thing to remind you, Yu Qincha should take care of Xiao Ran's affairs, otherwise, you will lose as many people as Qincha gets involved. Yu Lingfeng glanced at Jian Yanjiu and said with deep meaning. With such an arrogant person like Jian Yanjiu, it is naturally impossible for him to obey Yu Lingfeng's advice so obediently. Jian Yanjiu rolled his eyes at Yu Lingfeng and said, "You are so loud. Just wait for me. I will defeat you in one day." Boy. Jian Yanjiu was about to leave when he was stopped by Yu Lingfeng behind him. Jian Yanjiu paused and asked, "What other nonsense do you have to say? I would like to remind you that it is not a good idea to target me." "Ha, just wait and see." When Jian Yanjiu left, he passed by Jian Yin's, glared at him, and then left quickly. 11 Ju asked Jian Yin's in a low voice, "Will he still come to trouble you?" Jian Yin's pursed his lips and said, "I don't know." He didn't know, he was just afraid that 11 Ju would know. Based on his understanding of Jian Yanjiu, he will definitely come to trouble him. Jian Yanjiu is the kind of person who will never stop until he reaches his goal. As long as he is not dead, he will try his best to achieve his goal. However, from the moment he saw Jian Yanjiu, Jian Yin's had already made plans to die in his hands. His life was destined to be dark. He had lived such a period of time and was already satisfied. Even if he died like this, he would have no regrets. The only thing he couldn't let go of was 11 Ju. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuen Suya. Chapter 1049. Chapter 1049. Why did Jian Shai help Xiao Ran? Xia Ying silently glanced at Jian Yin's, who was still in a daze. She suddenly remembered something. When she first met Jian Yin's, the key information that came out of his mouth was vague. He has witnessed so many supernatural murder cases, but he is still living well. In the final analysis, it is just because he is a member of the Qinjia, and there is an entire Qinjia behind him. That's why no one dared to touch him. Xia Ying still remembers Qianyin saying that when he was 10 years old, he saw a middle-aged man killing people with goo insects. Although Qianyin's himself can't remember the appearance of that man now, no matter what, that man must not be simple. It is also very likely that he taught Sanskrit's goo art. Yu Lingfeng glanced at Qianyin's indifferently. Why are you here? I brought him here, don't worry, he doesn't remember the way. Xia Ying explained. If Qianyin's hadn't been brought here by mistake this time, these hidden things would not have been discovered. Qianyin's and Qianyanjiu turned out to be brothers. It turned out that except for the second grade, Qianyin's actually had such an incredible origin. Since you were once Qinqias, do you know why Qinqia is helping Xiao Rana now? Yu Lingfeng frowned and asked. He had investigated clearly early in the morning. Yu Lingfeng had come into contact with Hami Melon before, the time when he asked Hami Melon to take Qianyanjiu back. Yu Lingfeng just pretended to threaten Hamigawa, saying that he would use this information in exchange for Qianyanjiu's life. Hamigawa naturally agreed. Only then did Yu Lingfeng find out that Qiansha had arrested Stefan because of Xiao Ran. Reason: Xiao Ran's plan at that time was to start with Stefan first, and then slowly destroy those people around Xia Ying who cared about her step by step. She deliberately exposed Stefan's autism to the public. Later, her intention was to destroy Stefan's music, which would cause him more pain than killing Stefan directly. Fortunately, all this was stopped in time and it did not lead to tragedy. But when Yu Lingfeng asked Qiansha again why he helped Xiao Ran do this, Hamigawa said that he only needed to answer one question, and he was clever and bypassed Yu Lingfeng's question. Therefore, the question that bothers Yu Lingfeng now is how good and capable Xiao Ran is, so that she can make Qiansha's top killer work for her. Qianyins shook his head. I really don't know this. When I ran out, Qiansha and Xiao Ran had no connection at all. Now, I don't know why you ask that. Qiansha, what did Shasha do? Forget it if you don't know. Yu Lingfeng no longer hesitated. It would be best if you can find a channel to find out. If not, I will slowly investigate it. I'll do my best. After Qianyins finished speaking, he looked at 11 Ju beside him. Yu Lingfeng looked at Zihu. Zihu had just received Qianyin's violent impact. He didn't know if the internal parts were damaged. The consequence of highly simulating human beings is that the machine is easily injured. Although Yu Lingfeng has been guarding 11 Ju from getting hurt, such accidents are difficult to avoid. For example, what happened just now is a good example of this. Zihu, come with me. Yu Lingfeng said to 11 Ju with a cold face, and then turned around and left without waiting for 11 Ju's response. 11 Ju followed Yu Lingfeng silently. End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuan Suya. Chapter 1050. Chapter 1050. Is it difficult to say one sentence? Qianyins was about to follow, but Xia Ying grabbed her wrist. What are you going to do? I'll go see what they do. Qianyins turned around, looked at Xia Ying, and said softly. Yu Lingfeng only said to let 11 Ju pass, so don't follow him. Xia Ying said that 11 Ju was actually injured just now while trying to save Qianyins. Yu Lingfeng was probably planning to call him over to check his injuries. All right. Qianyins rested his head on his hands and sat on the sofa, lowering his eyes. His usually bright eyes were no longer alive at this moment. He was still thinking about what Qianyanjiu said just now, and Qianyanjiu's expression just now that he wanted to tear him into pieces. From a very young age, Qianyins knew that he and his brother would eventually become strangers. He had never had the intention to take over Qiansha. Compared to himself, Qianyanjiu admired those so-called masters and thought they were cool and popular. Qianyins also thought that if he was unwilling to take over this important task, It would fall on Qian Yanjiu's shoulders sooner or later, but he did not expect that this day would come so quickly. Qian Yanjiu is still so young. How can he, a child, take on the important task of leading Qiansha? What do those people in Qianxia think, and what do those people in Qinjia think? Qianyin suddenly felt that he was a little sorry for Qian Yanjiu. Even though he had admired and liked Qian Yanjiu when he was young, the responsibility behind actually taking over a killer organization and leading a group of cold-blooded killers was beyond the imagination of any uninvolved person. Therefore, Qianyins felt that Qian Yanjiu must hate him deeply at this moment. He is such a person who values friendship and loyalty, and Qianyins betrayed all of this. Their relationship has long been estranged. From the day he escaped, their brotherhood no longer exists. Xia Ying walked up to Qianyins, patted his shoulder, and comforted him in a low voice. It's all over, Qianyins, this is the life you chose. Now that you have reached this point, don't regret it. What you have to do is think about how to make your path longer and more brilliant. Qianyin sneered lowly. It was impossible. Qian Yanjiu was afraid that it would not be long before he came to take his life with his own hands. In Qinjia and Qinsha, anyone who betrays will only die. There is no exception for anyone, and he is the same. However, Qianyins did not answer like this. Instead, he raised his head and raised the corners of his mouth, revealing a beautiful pear dimple. Thank you. Where 11 Ju and Yu Lingfeng were, Yu Lingfeng checked 11 Ju's injuries and found that only some parts were damaged and could be repaired. Yu Lingfeng was repairing parts for 11 Ju. 11 Ju had been gloomy and looked ugly. He didn't know what was wrong. He always felt something strange in his heart. He always felt that he had a bad premonition. It seemed that there was something wrong. Something bad is about to happen. What's wrong with you? Although Yu Lingfeng did not look at him, some of 11 Ju's small movements and expressions could not escape Yu Lingfeng's eyes. Master, I always feel weird and uncomfortable. Yu Lingfeng did not answer, but asked, when are you going to tell Qianyins that you are a robot? 11 Ju was slightly stunned. I haven't thought about what to say yet. Yu Lingfeng raised his eyes and looked at 11 Ju. Is it difficult to say one sentence? End of this chapter.